At 63, Nora Clark might still be working. Actually, she might have done many things with her life, but they were all taken away from her when she was only 18. That's when she went into hospital for what she assumed was a routine delivery of her first child. But it seems the doctors and nurses, the nuns and priests in attendance, had other ideas. She says a nurse deliberately tried to put her fetus in the wrong position to allow the surgeon to operate on her.
And he put me under a big X-ray thing. There was a big X-ray thing. It was like a big fire, it looked like. Big X-ray thing, and it was over me like that, on my stomach and all that. And the baby was the right way around, because I knew she was. And she went behind the glass door, and she was looking, and then she came back out, and then she started pressing my stomach really hard. And I was trying to stop her pressing it so hard, but she was pressing it so hard, and then she went back in and looked, and she wasn't satisfied with that. She came back out and pressed it really hard again, and made the baby go right round in a circle and go the wrong way. And as she was walking back, I said, "You've put her the wrong way. She's gone up here. She's gone wrong." And then she went behind and smiled, and she said, "Oh, the baby's the wrong way around."
This was in 1971 at Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital in Drogheda, north of Dublin. It isn't anymore, but then it was a leading centre of symphysiotomy and a teaching hospital for missionaries who would take their beliefs and medical skills to Africa. Nora's recollection of what happened next is as clear as day. To her horror, she thought she was the subject of an experiment.
By then, a load of students suddenly were in the room. The place was full of students and other nurses, and they were all looking, and then there was this nurse, because they were down at the bottom here as well. It got full up, the room. I went up like that, and he went over, and that's when he went to a black case and took out a saw then, and came back with the saw, and he shouted at them, "I told you to hold her down. You know, hold her tight." But it was too late, I'd already seen the saw, but he was stood there with the saw, and he was looking at me, and I was looking at him, and I screamed at him, "What are you using that? What do you want to use a saw on me for? People don't use saws when they're having babies, you know." And he was stood there with the saw in his hand. So then he turned round, he got the saw, and then he started sawing me and telling them to hold me down, and told me to push the baby out while he sawed me. So I pushed the baby out, and she came out head first, normal. And then whatever way he was sawing me, once I pushed out, all the blood shot up to the ceiling and all over him, and over the nurses and students who were there watching what was going on and all that carry on.
It's like a horror film.
It is, and I never seen so much blood. It was like a fountain. I knew I was going to die.
The hacksaw she describes was the implement of choice used in maternity hospitals against hundreds and hundreds of women in Ireland, and only in Ireland, throughout the 20th century. Doctors knew all about caesarean section, but the church evidently felt that would limit the number of babies a woman could have. In a society in which medical practice seems to have been driven by church law, sawing open a woman's pelvis would allow her to have more and more children, regardless of the impacts on her body and her mind. Nora now lives in the English city of Manchester, where her medical records display an entire adult life of utter physical and emotional trauma. A collapsed pelvic floor, incontinence, inability to walk, and a host of profound psychiatric problems, all brought on by the separation of her pelvic bone. For decades, doctors in the British National Health Service, who had never even heard of symphysiotomy, couldn't work out what had happened to her body. It has not only affected Nora, but her entire family life.
We've never been on holiday as a family because we can't, my mum can't really go very far. Only once we went to Ireland, and that was relating to this case, not anything as a family, like enjoyment type of thing. But just not able to really, mostly confined to the house, day in and day out.
Nora believes she would have died in that room if her then husband hadn't arrived unexpectedly. She says a nun also told her that because the operation had left her unable to move, she would not be able to look after her baby daughter herself, and so the church was going to offer it to an American family. Nora has ended up believing they were trying to kill her to sell her baby.
And normally I used to always break down when I'd be telling people about it, but because I've got used to telling about it now, I don't break down as much. As, you know, I can try and keep the emotions away in order to actually tell of what they'd done.
But it ruined your life.
It ruined my life, yeah. It ruined me mentally and physically.
All of which brings us to 2015 and the many hundreds of women who are the survivors of symphysiotomy. The Irish state decided to offer a one-off compensation scheme which limited any payout to around $180,000, but which demanded women would also give up any legal action against doctors, church or state. The assessor refused to hear victims' testimonies, so Nora's allegations are subject to no civil or criminal investigation. Indeed, many women are being refused any compensation at all, since they could not produce proof of medical receipts from decades ago. Sympathetic politicians in Dublin are now demanding a vote of no confidence in the entire scheme.
If we don't halt this scheme and amend it, then what we're saying is that these women don't deserve justice, that their life's horror didn't count for anything, that we didn't believe it, that it was some trivial irrelevancy. So in order, and yes, that financial compensation doesn't compensate. To be human rights compliant, we have to scrap this scheme.
But the state, it seems, does not want to investigate Nora's claims. When the Irish government assessor told Nora she would receive the compensation, the letter came without apology, but with an observation that these were unhappy experiences in the past, and perhaps Nora could spoil herself. Nora, however, thinks that doctors were happy for her to die, and her pain is in no way in the past. It is with her every single day, and will be all her life. Laurence Lee, Al Jazeera.